The Sunday scaries hit the Mets again, but they take the series from the Marlins for a second time, this time 2 out of 3. The Mets have won 5 games this season. They've all come against the Marlins. Well, the Padres are coming to town, and it's a rematch of the wild card round of the playoffs as the Mets look to seek revenge. I'll be joined by Mets public address announcer at Citi Field. We've had him on before, friend of the program. Colin Cosell is going to join me. We'll recap the Marlins series, recap the first weekend at Citi Field of the season, and look ahead to the Padres series. It's Jake Brown, Colin Cosell on Amazin But True from the New York Post. And it's coming up next. Ooh, welcome back, everybody, to Amazin But True, a New York Mets podcast from the New York Post. I'm the podfather, Jake Brown, with a little guest co-host. Yes, usually Mondays, Nelson Figueroa is on, but remember, we did drop a rare Saturday morning episode after our live podcast on Friday night at Catch a Story. Thank you to Catch a Story. Thanks to Tri-State Cadillac for presenting us with that episode. Had a blast at Catch, packed house, a lot of drunk hooligans making a lot of noise, which hurt our case a little bit, maybe lost my voice a little bit, but it was a Mets home opener victory, and I loved it. 20 years with my dad going to the home opener. It's really the only game he goes to all year, so it's a special tradition for me. It's he grew up taking me to games. We had a Saturday plan. We saw the Mets when Roberto Alomar was there, and they sucked. And we would go to 10 to 12 games a year. And that's the one game he flies up from South Carolina, gets the flight, comes in, stays for the weekend, goes to his car show, comes to the game. He's capped at one game. That's all he could do. But it's a memorable one. And, the first game of the new scoreboard, we got on singing Piano Man. Me and my dad on the scoreboard. It was like 2 or 3 seconds, but singing Piano Man, Billy Joel together. So that was cool. It was a Mets win, and it was a Mets series win. They win 2 out of 3. It wasn't the prettiest. There were a lot of walks. It wasn't the shorter games that we're all going to be accustomed to. But a win is a win is a win is a win. Sunday sucked, and this team seems to, death taxes and Sunday scaries. The Mets just don't win at home on Sundays. It's fitting that, I had a last-minute ticket. No one wants it. It was Easter, happy Passover. Well, they lucked out because it was a rough game for the offense. It was a rough game for Carlos Carrasco. You walk in the building, it's 3-0. As soon as before you even get a cup of water, this Mets are down 3-0, and that seems to be the case. The joke is, put an opener out there and then bring Carrasco in. It shouldn't be a joke. You have to start considering that with how bad he is in first innings. And, the Marlins got the best of the Mets on Sunday. Starling Marte, let's pray he's okay. He's day-to-day going into this huge Padres series. He got hurt stealing third. If you had any time stolen base, you won on a plus 400 on that one. Thank you for that, Starling Marte, before going down for stealing that base. But, he has that neck strain. He is out. The Mets dealing with injuries. Francisco Alvarez was the story Sunday, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. He gets the chance to finally start. He gets an RBI hit and should be playing more often. We'll talk about that. But a good weekend at the ballpark, a cold weekend at Citi Field, but so good to be back there. And, it's going to be a fun season. 3 down, 78 home games to go. Well, speaking of Citi Field and those home games, here on Amazin But True, where you can get an Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts, or the New York Post Sports YouTube page, and Twitter at Amazin But True, and me at Jake Brown Radio. The guy you heard on opening day and the home opener, and just a cool moment with Edwin Diaz, too, as well, with the one more guest out there. You heard him over the loudspeakers. It is the New York Mets public address announcer. One of the two, him and Maricel Castro. It is the great Colin Cosell, friend of the program. He's been on the show before. Not only is he is a PA announcer, he is also now a father. Colin, welcome back to Amazin But True. And I guess I'll call you Colin Nelson Figueroa Cosell today.
Yeah, and or just not Figgy. But thanks so much for having me on, Jake. Greatly appreciate it. And a pleasure to be on in lieu of the great Nelson Figueroa. But yeah, it was a crazy weekend, and came away with that win, and I'm still a dad, so all's well that ends well.
Well, it's kind of funny. I'm looking at you now, and if you're watching this on video, just true professionalism. Me in a new blazer I had to do it for Easter, but you with our logo behind us. And your own cartoon as well. If you're looking on YouTube, look at this. I would have liked if you put the cartoon over Figgy. I was about to say, right now, you kind of look like the non-Puerto Rican Figgy. You are the white Figgy right now. Like, you have the similar beard, not as the cartoon, but real life Figgy, similar beard, grays in the beard like he has a little bit, and the backwards hat. Like you are, non-Spanish Figgy.
I'll take that. Seth Lugo, his nickname was Puerto Rican, and so I'm just non-Rican. I don't know. I don't know what to.
Do you have any Spanish in you?
No, none. There's a whole lot of Irish in me, and that's I think the only thing we have in common is cocktails.
The Colin Cosell English Academy, no Nelson Figueroa Spanish Academy today. Well, congrats on being a father. Your daughter Eloise is now, as people listen to this on Monday, 13 days old, and all hours of the night you are awake. And you texted me when I texted you had just woken up from a nap. It was like 1 p.m. and you had napped for 5 hours. So your life is all over the place right now.
I mean, yeah, it's first time parenthood, and it's just kind of you go by the clock of the baby itself, whatever rhythm she's on, which is basically she's up for an hour, it's feeding, it's hanging out, it's taking things in, and then it's sleeping for 2 hours, and that's just kind of how we operate. My mother-in-law is in town. She's Jackie's been a saint. Shout out to Jackie Devine, and she's been helping out a lot. And last night I was afforded the opportunity to give both of them a chance to sleep for consecutive hours, which is unheard of these days. And as payback, my wife let me just sleep for 5 consecutive hours. So you are catching me at my freshest here in fatherhood.
Yeah, I'm sure your coffee is running, right? Like you're drinking coffee at all hours.
Oh man, it's gotten to the point. I don't think there's any lining left in my stomach, but hey, it's well worth it. But yeah, that pot is getting a whole lot of work these days.
Yeah, well, shout out to your wife for giving birth, right? Like,
she's
a big deal.
I thought I was impressed with her. I thought she was the most amazing woman I'd ever met. And then there's childbirth, and I'm just like, I'm not worthy. It's incredible. She's a rock star. I'm perpetually in awe and have never been deeper in love. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Are there more on the way, or is it?
Yeah, there's already one on the way. That's how proud I am. It's just like, you know what, this is going so well the first time. Let's see if we can do it twice in 1 year. Now there will be another one, but first we're going to get, acclimated to parenthood. Make sure that we spoil this one so that when the second one comes around, everyone's just gonna be like, cool. And that's it. Just make sure we get it right. But yeah, eventually, but not yet, Jake, please. My God, we're still recovering.
Yeah, I won't speak too soon. Give it a few years. And you'd love to see Eloise in the booth with you, at some point. That would be cool. Probably not too early because the crying and screaming. You don't want to be announcing Francisco Lindor and you're,
I mean, for all you know, it could be one of his songs. Like he changes his walk-up song every single at bat, every single game. So for all they know, it just could be part of a song that no one's ever heard before. Luckily, she's not a fussy baby. I am looking forward to, I'm thinking like September towards the end of the season, of getting her in and, taking some pictures in the booth. But I can't wait. I would do it tomorrow if I could, but she's not even 2 weeks old. So I'm not going to do that to her.
Give it a month. And don't be the father that at 3 years old and 2 months is saying my baby is 38 months. Just say they're 3. Like,
my wife and I discussed that. Julie and I had a conversation about it. It's like, we're not going to be the ones who are going to be like, she's officially 120 months old. It's like, dude, she's 10. She's 10 years old. Stop.
At that point, the math is just too difficult that even Mama Brown, a shout out to her for coming this weekend. Great to see my mom as well. Who got me this blazer. Like, I always say they always pick out like the most like funeral looking, like boring blaze. Like my mom hates when I wear Doritos hoodies and ramen noodle hoodies and gold shoes. She's like, what are you doing? Wear black shoes and white shoes. Like I like style. And she picked this out. So shout out to moms, shout out to your wife who's now a mom, and shout out to you as a father. And Mets fans are fathers and mothers of Francisco Alvarez right now. You like that transition? The 21-year-old catcher. That's why they pay me the big bucks, Colin.
That was not awkward at all. That was not awkward at all. That was seamless. I'm just going to sit back and watch the maestro at work.
Well, listen, up in the blue seats, our Rangers show, I'll always say something and then I'll transition to Larry Brooks. I'll be like, speaking of a guy who smells good with good cologne, let's bring on our Hall of Famer, Larry Brooks. So let's talk about Francisco Alvarez. He's 21 years old. He gets his chance. Now, he only caught 13 innings in September. The Mets brought him up at a very awkward time. Playoff push, wasn't going to get much of a chance. Mostly was DH. This is essentially the second full game he's catching. So he hasn't had a lot of defensive experience in games that matter. And now he gets an RBI single on Sunday. he looked good throwing the ball as well. He had a couple of lasers to second. Unfortunately, they were just late. And you're just going to see that with the new rules with limited pickoffs, step offs. There is more stolen base. You're already seeing it. But, Colin, with Omar Narvaez out till June, I know Buck says that Tomas Nido is going to get the bulk of the playing time. But if the lineup keeps faltering towards the bottom and you insert an 8-hitter that has pop and could, hit a homer with a couple of guys on and change a ball game, change a season, I gotta think you have to consider playing Alvarez 4 to 5 times a week. You're a 21-year-old kid, Colin, and you're playing once a week, twice a week. You're going to try so hard to do so much. And you kind of saw that even on Sunday where he swung on a pitch in a dirt. I think it was a 2-2 count where, he might have walked there if he had a little bit more plate discipline. He needs the reps. He needs the chance. And if Buck's going to say the pitchers love throwing to him, let's see them throw to him more than once or twice a week. I want to see what he's got.
It's a tough situation for Buck, and it's a tough situation for fans because when you're the number one prospect, obviously in the pipeline, you want to see what this kid can do. And right now, the Mets offense has been, either high octane or just a complete dud. And it's the beginning of the season. Everyone, even Jeff McNeil, who can create a hit out of nothing, is struggling. He's batting around 250 right now. So, it's a tough time for everyone. But for Alvarez, I'm in the mindset, and I know this is it really has created such a chasm, especially in the Twitterverse. Everyone's like, Alvarez has got to get in there right now. Nido is not a starting catcher, which I beg to differ on that. I've watched Alvarez since he was in Brooklyn because I announced a handful of Cyclones games. I've been watching him since he was in high A. And there's no denying the dude can crush a ball. I saw him hit a ball that, if I'm not mistaken, clocked someone who was riding the Cyclone roller coaster, on the other side of the ballpark there in Coney Island. He can knock it a country mile. Defensively, yeah, he's not that great. And we're there's an ebb and flow these years in baseball with catchers. You either want that catcher who is an offensive powerhouse or a defensive powerhouse. And right now it's starting to go back into the defensive powerhouse. And that's going to be very important, especially with the pitch clock, because some of the pitches are going to feel rushed. They're going to have errant pitches. You're going to need someone who's going to have the experience to be able to block it, knock it down, keep everyone in check, keep everyone on base, and occasionally be asked to throw someone out. He's not there yet. I'm not sure that he's there maturity wise either. There's still a lot of kid left in him. And I can say that now because at 43, if you're 21 years old, you're a kid to me. And I'm going to say that, and I'm sorry. But in all honesty, I think there's still some things that need to be polished with him, defensive being a huge aspect of it. You watched Tomas Nido, a veteran move. He had one ball that got past him the other day, and then he learned from that mistake and was able to make some very, very good blocks that were saving the base runners from advancing. That is a veteran move. That is something that you learn over time, and that's something that Alvarez needs to do. His reps are going to come in Syracuse. Everyone goes nuts because he gets 3 home runs a night and knocks in 60 ribbies, and it's just like, wow, this guy needs to be here right now. Yeah, but he's our catcher. If he was in any other position, if he was just going to be a career DH, that would make perfect sense to me. But in all honesty, the kid needs more time. He needs more reps. Losing Narvaez to me was a much bigger deal than Alvarez not getting enough time.
Yeah, and I worry though that, and listen, those are great points. The pitch clock, working with veterans, they're going to get Verlander. Looks like the end of the month. So you're going to have 2 Hall of Famers in there. You're going to have Senga, who, the ghost forkball was just filthy. 5 strikeouts in the first 2 innings Saturday. That was fun to watch. Ended up with 6. I thought he was going to have 10 on Saturday.
Yeah.
So you make a good point. But now Francisco Alvarez, if he's not going to be DH and he's going to catch once or twice a week here, he's staying here until June. I think he's losing out on very important reps by not playing at all. I get what you're saying defensively, and defensively is important. But if the lineup continues to falter and there's no other resource, if Brett Baty's not coming up, which will be our next topic, because, home opener fans are already booing Escobar off the field, and then he shoves it in their face with a homer on Saturday. I love Escobar, and I want to give him his chance here, at least for a few weeks before the first home game of the season. Doing that is what Yankee fans do. That's what they do to, Josh Donaldson, to Aaron Hicks. They did it to Giancarlo Stanton. They booed him on opening day. Let's give Escobar a few weeks. He had a nice weekend. He had a hit Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, drove in a few runs with the big homer on Saturday. So we give him time. But there could be a point here, Colin, that you need Alvarez's bat more than you need the better defense. And Tomas Nido isn't a Gold Glover. He's good, but he's not a Gold Glover back there.
No, you're absolutely right. And, Escobar, I absolutely adore him. The man is all heart. He is the epitome of hard work makes results, and kind of a manifest destiny sort of a guy. He can create his own path to greatness. We're talking about a former All-Star here. Granted, he's coming from a team where, you had to find the best player on a bad team and to get that All-Star in there. But he's still All-Star worthy. What he did in the month of September, he was basically the offensive powerhouse next to Jeff McNeil when everyone else's bats fell dead. And that was a huge problem going into the playoffs because nothing kickstarted it. Not an Alvarez, not a Baty. Granted, they had some home runs, first at bat home runs, and it was really exciting and electrifying, but it's unsustainable. Escobar is a veteran. He's someone who's going to figure it out. You do need that defense. Because now that there's no longer the shift, you're going to rely on position players to stay within a certain or play within a larger circumference now. That defensive change is where you're going to need stronger defense. And Escobar is more than fully capable of that. And he can get himself out of slumps, and he can have huge hot streaks. And he's been known to get some big hits as well. Obviously, Baty has been producing, and he's fantastic. He's the future, and he's going to get some great reps. And if it's going to be in the outfield or left or in on the hot corner, whatever it is, he's going to be fantastic. But there's a reason that these players were sent down that we don't understand. We're not Buck Showalter, and no one on Twitter, no one that you follow or who follows us is Buck Showalter. Buck Showalter is who he is because he's one of the greatest managers to not win a championship, and he desperately wants to do it, and he wants to help develop that talent. He understands the youth. He understands the game better than any of us and wants to see it develop a certain way. So, listen, New York's going to New York. We're going to boo people. The first loss of the season, well, this is what we get. We're snake bitten. Everything's gone to crap ever since Diaz, blew out his knee. We're snake bitten, and I get it. I'm a fan too. I get it. But it is still April. To your point, though, Jake, just backing it up a little bit, I will say if you're going to throw Alvarez in there and you're going to get him his reps, now's the time to do it. The age-old philosophy is stay around 500 through April and then figure out the kinks and iron them out and get your team going from there. And you can see that with basically all the World Series champions since, God knows when. They've been, I'd say over the last 15 years, they get going by like June, July. That's when you see them start to come to life. The Braves, when they won, perfect indication of that. So I don't know. I see it both ways. I understand why the fans are booing Escobar. Everyone wants results right now. And based on what happened in the offseason, I get that. But you can't ask for patience in this town, especially with Mets fans who desperately want a championship. So basically, I just talked myself into a big circle of disagreeing with you, agreeing with you, and then telling the fans to relax. And that's not a good look for me. So back to you, Jake. I'm just going to hide in the corner.
Well, listen, both sides are accurate here because Tomas Nido isn't a bum, but he's not an all-star. So you're throwing out a guy who has experience, but if they don't see anything from him, at the plate, you got to make the switch, and you only have limited time here because once Narvaez is ready, I think Alvarez is going to get called down unless he hits, and we're not going to see him hit if he ain't playing. So we'll see. It's also the cold weather factor. Maybe you play him more on the West Coast coming up when you're in Oakland, you're in LA, you're in San Francisco, although San Francisco probably not that warm. It's probably a little windy and chilly there, but it's been cold at Citi Field. I know the sun's been out and it says like 58, 60. Luckily, Wednesday will be a nice day, 75 and sunny. Looking forward to that, but maybe it's the weather. Who knows? But that's going to be a big debate. And, Brett Baty's going to be a debate. He's back healthy, like you said. And you hope Starling Marte's okay. But if Marte goes to the IL, then you got another decision to make. Is it Vientos? Is it Baty? because listen, I like Tim LoCastro. He cannot hit a lick.
No.
He's a pinch runner and a late game defensive replacement.
Yep.
But with the Mets lacking bats, and it's hard to watch when you see Michael Conforto and JD Davis tearing it up for the San Francisco Giants right now, and the Mets lacking bats. I'm not gonna hash on the Correa thing. That's old news at this point. But there's gonna be a point where you're like, all right, we need to add a bat. And Marte's day to day, although that looked kind of bad. I hope he's okay. You're gonna have to think at some point one of these other guys might have to come back. And I guess the Padres series here will be a real test. The Mets are getting finally a really good team, a championship contender coming to Citi Field, and a rematch of the wild card. You hope fans show up this week. I know it'll be a little cold, but these are going to be 3 good games, and this could be a big test for the Mets and a big test for this lineup to see what they got before they hit the West Coast.
No, it's a good early litmus test, and it's against a team that I honestly thought was going to the World Series last year after their moves at the trade deadline. I had put all my money, figuratively speaking, of course, on San Diego to make it, and they just caught Philadelphia the right place at the wrong time. Because let's face it, the Phillies really didn't belong there. The Padres are a really good team. They've got an insane all-star lineup of hitters, and they've got some good pitching as well. This is going to be a good litmus test, but it's also one of those things where I have to keep reminding myself it is a long season. It is a marathon and not a sprint. And it is April. There's, players are also, there's the World Baseball Classic aspect as well. That kind of threw players. Baseball players are creatures of habit. Pitchers more than anyone, but they're all creatures of habit, right down to the walk-up music for some that won't step on a line when they're walking up to the batter's box. Yoshi Suzuko jumps into it for goodness sake. So these are people that are used to a regular routine, and it's not happening this year. I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for it, but it's difficult to get into a routine, and that actually harkens back to your point about Alvarez. How is he going to get any better if he's not getting some routine at bats or starts? And Nido is not an all-star, but I take a look at is he James McCann? Is he Wilson Ramos? It's an upgrade in my eyes, defensively and offensively, because Nido, when he gets hot, he's like a Guillorme behind the plate sort of thing. He can be very good defensively, and he can get hot with the bat. So listen, a lot of questions will be answered in due time. It's one of those things where I'm just going to sit back and say, okay, you know what, Buck, let me see what you can do. Let me see what Epler does. And let me see, how they're going to fill in those blanks. So Marte's out for a little bit. Are you going to move Nimmo over to right, put Pham in center, bring Baty in at left? Because you can't put LoCastro in there. And they do want to give Baty some reps just in case. And I think
you're probably going to see McNeil move to the outfield, and Guillorme is just going to have to play every day because, like they did on Sundays, McNeil moved to right. They'll have to mix and match some things here.
Well, that's the other option as well. But if we're going to make the argument of giving some of the younger players some reps, if you're going to bring in a Vientos or a Baty, that's the way you're going to do it, because Guillorme, fantastic off the bench, always reliable, and you can obviously plug him in at second and throw McNeil at left. Listen, these days, as I said, we're gravitating towards the defensive catcher. We're also gravitating towards the Swiss Army player, that Swiss Army knife player that can play any position. You are much more worth your paycheck to a major league team these days if you can play multiple positions and not just excel at one. Who knows? I don't know. Again, I'm talking myself in circles here, Jake, because it's so early in the season. There's so many variables, and you want to touch upon all of them, but it's also like, I also want to just sit back, scratch my chin, and just be like, okay, let me see what the professionals do, because I'm not one of them.
And I trust Buck, and Buck we trust, and I love Buck. I saw his wife the other day on Sweet Level, had the I Love Buck jacket on. Great hair, like Cruella DeVille, Miss Showalter. She's got the gray or white hair, whatever it is, but supporting her husband. The eye was almost falling off, so it was almost just saying "Love Buck" without the eye. So I said, make sure someone pats you on the back to get that eye on there.
Doesn't it make you hope that he finishes his emails that way? Just love Buck, just Buck. Every single one of them with his little Mets decal there, the signature on his Outlook email.
People via text, not even email, will love Dad. My dad will say hi Jake, comma, like it's a letter. I'm like, Dad, you're texting me. I know who it is. I love you too, but you don't need to say love Dad at the end of every line. So
that is a generational thing. You're absolutely right. Then again, there's, the people that think, I know far too many people of that generation who think or thought LOL meant lots of love. And so they would like respond, and so many cringeworthy stories, Jake. It's mind boggling where, it's just like, my dear Aunt Hillary passed away last night at the age of 97. It's just like, I'm so sorry to hear that. LOL.
lots of love. I thought that might be a British thing with the hugs and kisses. Yeah,
No, that's just H's and K's, love. That's a whole different thing, baby. That's just, H's and K's.
Austin Powers on the program. He's got all personas, all accents. He does it all, folks. How often, I'm curious, we're talking with Colin Cosell. Follow him on Twitter at CosellPA. Catch him. You do the weekday games, and Marisol Castro does the weekend, correct? Is that how it works?
Pretty much so, yeah. This season I'll be on. I typically do like a couple weekends just to break it up. And Madi, her birthday has been falling on the weekend or around the weekend for the past couple of years. So I'll be there for the Hall of Fame weekend, the first weekend of June. But yeah, typically I'm on weekdays, she's on weekends. And yeah, we just commenced our 6th season in the booth, which is incredible to think about.
How cool is it to do the home opener? And, everyone hearing you, packed house. Obviously, it should have been Thursday. We know weather was incredible Thursday. It was chilly Friday, whatever. The game happened. But that first game's got to be special to be a part of that. And it was you that said there was one more special guest. Or no, that was Howie Rose that said that when Edwin Diaz came out, right?
That was, yeah. The beauty of opening day is as PA announcers. That's another thing Madi and I have done for the past, because we were hired a month and a half into the season, 2 months into the season in 2018. So we didn't do the home opener. But the last 5 seasons, we split the home opener. So Madi will do the pregame and I'll do in-game. But Howie will do the whole introduction of the teams and that whole big ceremony, and then the starters as well. But to your point, yeah, and then he announced one last person. And it was great for us because it was great for the fans too. But in production, we had so many things ready for Diaz's season, and it was going to be trumpets this, trumpets that. The song, obviously, by Narco by Blaster Jackson, Timmy Trumpet, and not being able to play it this season is heartbreaking. To hear it, to make a special point of it, I know it was great for Edwin. It was great for the fans as well, but it was just so electrifying to hear it this season.
And it's going to be cool for you. The first game is cool. Playoffs is cool. Those special moments. Yeah. As a guy who's a lifelong Mets fan, I'd imagine that, there's chills at some points in while you're sitting there.
Oh, it happens all the time. It happens when I pull up to the ballpark. It'll happen when I'm, for my day job, I travel a lot. It'll happen when I'm on my way to JFK, or when I'm sitting, waiting at the gate at LaGuardia and there's Citi Field. And I just kind of get chills every time. I'm like, my voice fills that stadium. Like, it's still surreal to me. But yeah, the home opener is magical every year because it's a fresh, clean slate. Everybody's there. Everyone's chomping at the bit, super excited, the hope of a new season. So it's kind of a playoff atmosphere without there even being a game played at home. And it's pretty amazing stuff. The playoff game is a whole other thing. Like, that's just insane. I got to do one game last year, and it happens to be Jacob deGrom's last game, and the one game that we won against San Diego. So my playoff record is spotless. I'm 1-0. But yeah, doing the home opener is it's incredible.
And we might get a rematch. We will get a rematch this week. Maybe we get a rematch again in October with the Padres coming to town this week. How often, when you say I'm Colin Cosell, do you ask, are you related to Howard Cosell? Is that every time you say your name in front of a sports fan? How often does that happen?
It's more of a generational thing. Like, you've got a man in his I'd say late 40s to 50s and up, as of this particular day. There's a greater chance to be like, wait, any relation? And then I'll be a smart ass. I'll say, yeah, no, Greg Cosell, who is my cousin and does a lot of stuff in sports. He's an NFL analyst guru, who does a lot of stuff for ESPN and the like. But then I'll be like, oh yeah, you mean the famous wig maker Howard Cosell? Because my grandfather had a toupee, and that's hilarious. But more often than not, I'm like, yep, nope, I'm his grandson. But it varies, a lot. Obviously, in the sports world, more people do than don't. But in everyday life, it's a crapshoot. And, when people do, I don't shy away from it. It's not like I'm ashamed. I'm like, oh yeah, it's not like my grandfather was Jeffrey Dahmer. So
Well, it's cool because my dad was marveled. I told my dad, the PA guy, I know him as Colin Cosell. And he's like, is he related to Howard? I'm like, yeah, it's his grandson. He's like, oh my God, that's him. Like, Howard Cosell was incredible, Jake. So, like, the older generation, that name, it does to any sports fan, but to older generation like my dad rings true. So, do you get your pipes from him or do you credit yourself for the pipes?
I kind of created my own thing. It's weird though. When I was doing play-by-play, when I was a broadcaster, there were times when I got super excited and did not notice it was happening. This might have just been a genetics thing where it kind of became that like staccato Cosell style where I'm just kind of enunciating things as they're happening and yelling in this kind of tone. And it's complete. And like people would call me out on it afterwards. Are like, you sounded like your grandfather on that call. And I'm like, that's impossible. And then I listen back to it. I'm like, my God, they're right. But for me as an announcer, like, no, I've been in love with talking to microphones since I was 5 years old. So I've been, like using a little tape recorder and doing all the, I'm sure you did this as well. Like most of us who do this, we were talking into microphones and like, for me, it was a little Fisher Price recorder. And I would do like, commercials and my own little radio show and stuff like that.
I would call the Mets game from the couch like I was Howie Rose or Gary Cohen, and I'd be like, the 3-2, it's a high fly ball, deep left field. It's out of here. Like I would just do that on the couch, but not with the recorder next to me.
See, hockey's my number one sport. So I would do the same thing with Rangers games. I'd mute it. And, but I've always gravitated towards comedy. I've always loved making people laugh. And I did stand-up comedy for 17 years of my life and absolutely loved it. Like I just love adding levity, cause it's a dark world, darn it. It's nice to add some light sometimes, and I'm goofy and irreverent, and I would do that in my broadcasts as well. But, I would mute Ranger game and I would, do the play-by-play, but I instill some humor as well. And I actually get to do that when I do New York Riptide games. I get to antagonize the opposition and make fun of people and like have a lot of fun with it and make it kind of a comedy show. And I'll be like, my God, that was hideous. Like, who is that pass to? You should be ashamed of yourself. And I get away with it too. It's amazing.
That would be fun in Met games. Like, wow, he really swung and missed at that, like Brockmeyer, but like a cleaner version without like the whiskey and the cigars in the booth.
I mean, it'd be a lot of fun with like Jeff McNeil because he'll provide the swears for you. You don't. I don't know if anyone picked up on that when there were no fans in the stands and we had piped in sound during the height of the pandy. That's what I call the pandemic because it makes it sound funnier. But in the height of the pandy, it was just McNeil would strike out and you just hear like bomb like at the top of his lungs and it would just echo through the stadium. It was like, wow, there's no way that didn't get picked up on TV. So yeah, that would be. That's the only way I'd get away with it. But I would be like, wow, Jeff McNeil let us know he really bleeping felt there, but that's it would be fun. But alas, I cannot.
But you would be fired immediately.
100%.
You'd be sent to the minors like Brockmeyer. I love that show. I paid extra to watch it like ad free. I was like, I didn't even go through the ads. I'm gonna pay to watch this damn thing.
Dude, he's the one Mets fan celebrity that I'm just dying to meet. Like, I don't geek out over celebrities. I don't really care. I don't want autographs or pictures or anything. I want to meet Hank Azaria. I want to sit down and have a drink with Hank Azaria and just pick
We had
his
him on the
brain.
show, but it was over the phone. So I'm trying to get him on Zoom this year at least. But hopefully he comes to the ballpark. If I see him, I'll direct him to the PA booth. I'll be like, hey,
he was apparently at the home opener, and I was just like, someone bring him up here. I know who in their right mind would want to come and hang out in the PA booth. Like, especially
I
if
would,
you're
but
like,
I'm not Brockmeyer. So
all right. So let me retract that prior statement. And if you're a major celebrity, like, why would you want to come and hang out in the PA booth when you can just go and hang out in the owner's box?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to choose? My little 3x7 square foot booth or hanging out with Uncle Steve? Uncle Steve every time.
I mean, he's got lobster rolls. That's the end of the story. Lobster and caviar in there. I'm choosing the bougie food, especially when the lines were just insane over this weekend in the bathroom. Like, I would go to Delta just to take a dump and a piss because I avoid the lines. Like sitting on the toilet in Delta Club, I'll be honest with you. First inning that when that homer happened, I was on the Delta toilet, and I'm sorry for the visual, but it's just a much more comfortable toilet than the ones above where the soap wasn't even working this weekend. We got to get that fixed. Can we get the soap working? We had dirty poop hands around the ballpark because none of the soap dispensers were working. So we got to get that fixed.
I'll try to put in the good word. They keep me in a padded cell. My PA booth. I mean, I really don't interact with people much. I don't see, like when people talk to me, I'm like, huh, what? How'd you know me? Who said that? To get spooked easily. But I'll try to work on that. To your point though, the Delta toilets or the stalls they are wonderful. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that as an employee, but
it's just
I've
a
snuck
fact.
down
They're
there.
nicer, the bigger. It smells better in there. Like it's just
It is. They are
beautiful
lovely, and it's door to ceiling. Like I'm sorry, floor to ceiling doors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I think is amazing. Like
and you have people actually going through the entrance and exit, where the other ones, you got people coming out of the that's one of these small things. You get triggered by certain things, but like when people go through the exit and then you bang into them because they went to the wrong side, read the door, entrance, exit, entrance, exit. That pisses me off. Or like home opener, there were 3 lines for me to get into the bathroom. I'm like, what happened to good old single file? Like we're going to the Bronx Zoo in 7th grade. Like what happened to those days? God damn.
Jake, because you've become an old man officially. You're like, get off my lawn. Whatever.
I've been hanging with my dad all weekend. I've become an old man complaining about everything.
When I grew up, people followed signs and instructions. There was speed limits, and you followed them. That's what we did in my day.
That'll Jake, be you soon as a father. You might sound like the man on the lawn.
I'm already so get off my lawn. Like, we live here in Yonkers, and we're on the Hudson River, and there's a roadway that passes by, and people will go by and they're blasting like today's hip hop, and I'll literally catch myself out loud saying, "Oh God, you call that rap? You don't know the Notorious B.I.G. You don't understand the genius of African Bambaataa. What is wrong with you? That's not hip hop." And then my wife is like, "All right, old man, you're gonna be okay." And I was just like, "There's a vein popping out, and and it's just yeah."
See, I like current hip hop, so I wouldn't be mad unless it was like Kodak Black, who I think is terrible. I said that on Twitter, and I had like one Kodak Black defender be like, "You're bald. Kodak Black's a great rap." I'm like, is that like offensive now? Bald is in. Like bald is the look right now in 2023. Colin Cosell's with us. Follow him on Twitter at CosellPA. Mets Padres this week. We can't wait. We can't wait to hear you this week. And I got to stop in and see an inning of you calling. Making the calls from the booth. I've been in there. It's cool. I like the DJ booth, the guy who spins the 1s and 2s. So that's
DJ
good
Razor.
Too. DJ Razor, that's his name. Yes. Something that I use every 2 days to keep this pristine bald look. It
looks amazing.
A lot of upkeep. Yeah, it takes a lot of cocoa butter upkeep. A lady had felt my hand the other day, and she said, "Oh, it's very smooth." And I said, "That's the cocoa butter. The cocoa butter all over." So that'll be on Amazin But True After Dark next week.
I can't wait for that episode. Can I be invited here? Let me just stick my head in there. There I am. I'm Figgy. Oh no, I'm doing the wrong way. Anyway,
I'm telling you look exactly like him with the beard. It's unbelievable. I gotta pull up a picture from the other day when we had Andy Chavez in, so you could see how close. I mean, look at this. Look at the camera. Like the beard is pretty similar with the grays there. You see that? Pretty close. Pretty close.
All right. I mean, right here, it makes it look like you guys had some weird child who wears a backwards cap and just put him on your shoulder. And
everyone's having a child. You, me, I'm having a cartoon child.
That's me.
Give me 3 to 5 years. Let me put the Steve Cohen World Series window on my child window. I'm gonna go closer to the 5 years. I'm hoping the Mets are closer to the 3 years this year, and we might see a preview this week. Mets Padres. We will be back with Figgy back in the saddle. It'll drop Thursday morning after that series ends. Go win games against the non-Marlins. All 5 Mets wins have come against the Marlins. I want to beat someone else. Colin Cosell, CosellPA on Twitter. Appreciate you coming on, man. Good luck with Eloise, your beautiful daughter, and can't wait to see you at the ballpark. Thanks for coming on Amazin But True.
Thanks for having me, Jake. Greatly appreciate it. And to the gentleman who tweeted back at me and said that Eloise is too old of a name, sir, please come after my daughter again and I will kill you. But no, seriously, I greatly appreciate it. It was great doing my best Figgy imitation, and would love to do it again and have you guys in the booth.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it again later this year, doing some fun crossovers all season with other Mets podcasts as well. So I'm having a lot of fun with this. And Gretchen is an old name. Eloise is a beautiful name. I think if you named your kid Gretchen, I would have judged you a little bit. I think of
Ethel,
Recess and the nerdy girl with the glasses and Recess with Gretchen.
Yeah, like Ethel. Ethel would have been one. Yeah, like this is my daughter Ethel. It'd be like, well, she's automatically given a walker and is in a Pepsodent commercial, and I'd be like, you're right. You're right.
We'll see her mid Price is Right at 11:25 a.m. next week. What's her middle name?
Not tonight, Dad. I've got to catch my stories. Then it's Jeopardy or in bed.
That'll be me in a couple years. We used to record Wheel of Fortune every day. My parents watch Jeopardy every day, so I get that. What is her middle name, by the way? Did you give her a middle name?
Jacqueline. Eloise Jacqueline Cosell.
I like that. Eloise Jacqueline Cosell. Well, congratulations to you.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks for coming on the show. We'll do it again, and we'll close out this episode of Amazing But True next. All righty. Great stuff there from my guy, Colin Cosell, a new father. I was going to say I'm going to be a grandfather. I'm going to be an uncle in just a few months in August. Uncle Jake, Funkle Jake. I'm going to need shirts. I'm going to need to try to get him to be a Mets fan, although my brother will probably make him a Yankees fan. That says goodnight to episode 135 of Amazing But True, our New York Mets podcast from the New York Post. Thanks to Andrew Hartz and the intern Josh Crawford for helping me produce the show. As always, Nelson Figueroa will rejoin me Wednesday night. We'll record a new episode after the big series against the Padres. I'm really looking forward to this. It's an early test. You know, they've played some lousy teams so far. You're at home. Scherzer, Darvish Monday, like good series, afternoon game, nice weather Wednesday. We'll recap it all Wednesday night. It'll drop Wednesday night at the latest, 5 a.m. Thursday. So when you wake up Thursday, you'll have a new episode in your feed. And we are hoping to have a guest. We're working on Daniel Murphy. We should have a guest for Thursday morning show, so stay tuned for that. Some good guests are on the horizon. If you're watching this on YouTube, the New York Post Sports YouTube page, give us a thumbs up. Comment below how you feeling about the Mets. There's a lot of pessimism in the air, but the team is 5-5. Let's all settle down. It is early. You can give us a thumbs up, comment below how you're feeling, and also subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, wherever you get podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating, write in a nice review. Follow me on Twitter at Jake Brown Radio, and follow the show at Amazin But True. For Colin Cosell, I'm Jake Brown. We will be back on Thursday after this Padres series with Figgy back in the saddle. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Amazing But True. And as always, let's go Mets.